Hey guys, this is Obsidian Chill. Got another video for today. And I have some recent news. This is released August the 14th. I just didn't get the update in my email until someone mentioned it today. So I wanted definitely to cover it. So EG7 is the company behind Daybreak. They had their interim report for April 1st through June 30th, which is basically just breaking down essentially the metrics of the company. So a part of that will be Daybreak. So I'll put the link in the description if you want to read the report yourself. But it kind of gives us a look behind the scenes a little bit in terms of what's going on. Certainly something that DC Universe Line wouldn't release themselves, but we can kind of find it from the financial reporting. So for EG7, one thing here, just to look at it. So Summer by Second, we don't have a breakdown of the game. So Daybreak, that's looking at like all the Effortworks games, DC Universe Online, like Lord of the Rings Online, a bunch of other games. We know DC Universe Online from past reporting makes up a large chunk of Daybreak's annual income. Or it is a major contributor to it, but it doesn't tell the whole story. But it does show here that from Q1 to Q2, there was a drop in the net revenue from 188 to 167. This summary here for the 22 to 7%, that's the earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. So that's what that 22% and 7% indicate. So that doesn't tell us a whole story. Obviously, there wasn't as much going on in DC, but I mean, that could be across Daybreak as well in the other games. So that's not a huge kind of indicator there. But everything's pretty steady. But as you can see here from Q2 from last year, Q3 through 4, net revenue is pretty steady. And then obviously the big drop in Q2 for this. But in terms of the breakdown from Daybreak here, same thing. It says here the revenue, this is not in US dollars, it's SEK, so it dropped 11.2%. But the bigger as pointed here is that putting aside the impact from the revenue recognition timing, the performance for the quarter still came in short of expectations, with DC Universe Online, DDO, and PS2 PlanetSide 2 underperforming. DC Universe Online's new episode 47, Brainiac Returns, did not reach the anticipated level of player engagement. So that's the primary focus of this video that I want to focus on. So obviously there's a few different things to look at here. One, obviously the server issues was a major factor. I mean, that was even for me as well. Like I even covered it in a video that no one wants to log in and play a new episode when you have constant server delay, animation delay, different aspects in terms of actual server issues themselves. Now, it's not completely fair because that won't be completely associated with episode 47 itself, because I mean the server issues were there before. But at the same time, if you're going to release a brand new episode and want to drive engagement, having players return, track out the new content, the very last thing you want to have happen is a bunch of server delay and other issues that are going to impact the player experience or the player online experience. Now, this was a little bit more focused on the US servers. On the EU servers, there doesn't seem to be as much, that same server issues. I didn't really experience anything on EU. Other EU players that didn't, but I mean, at the same time, the EU population kind of represents a small minority compared to the overall population compared to the US. So, I mean, that's where their main engagement is going to be. The last thing you want is having issues with the US-based servers. But so that's one aspect of it. The second aspect of it was Brainiac Returns itself was an uninteresting episode, really. I mean, Halls of Justice did have potential. I thought that could have been a better Elite Plus approach. I mean, there was some nice aspects to it, but I believe it was kind of a good raid that could be great, but it kind of stayed good. And then the other raid was just kind of like an afterthought. It was basically Brainiac's bottle ship. We essentially followed the content before. Plus, I mean, in general, Brainiac Returns episode, we've been fighting Brainiac since 2011. So it's not something that people haven't seen already before. We've seen Brainiac tons of different versions. So, I mean, the episode concept itself was not exactly what this game needed, certainly to drive engagement back to it. Because it means, I haven't checked out DC Universe Online in a long time. Let me see what they're doing. Check out the latest episode, and it's a Brainiac episode. It's like, well, I mean, I fought Brainiac 10 years ago on the drop ship, and, back cave, out caverns, and all the other raids with Brainiac. So I can see that being another driving factor as well. So it comes down to the fact that one, I mean, I'm seeing on the forums, like I'm kind of playing the test server more often than the live server. I'll be completely honest with there, but that's kind of a few other deciding factors. But I mean, even I'm still seeing reports from players like the animation delay is coming back. It used to be good for now. I mean, you still have the issues with like the PS5 for DC Universe Online not being that much playable. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it came out on Xbox. but someone will have to let me know in the next gen in terms of how the Xbox is performing. But I know there's still plenty of players that play on the PS4 version of the game rather than PS5 just because of all the issues with the PS5 version. So I'm not sure. I mean, we haven't heard much in terms of kind of any public support. I mean, there's supposed to be the or eventually, obviously we have the new episode coming out in September at some point, so we should see that on public test, shortly or within the next week or so. So I mean, obviously we'll have that to gauge expectations in terms of episode 48, especially when episode 42 didn't meet the level. So I mean, at this point, we're going to it again if there's any outstanding server issues, coupled with the fact that episode 48 really needs to be, not a home run, but it needs to certainly have more player engagement than episode 48-7 did, and that's what we're gonna have to wait and see. But it's certainly something that EG7 is seeing as well. I mean, everyone's going to say, well, DC Universe line should just shut down or like this is doom and gloom. It's not. It's basically just kind of look behind the window and being realistic with ourselves that obviously the players knew about this, and now the developers have to see that as well, where it's okay, we have to address these issues with the server issues as well as player feedback in general, because obviously now it's impacting our bottom line because EG7 is seeing it as well. So it's clearly it's not like no one has to read between the lines here. I mean, it's clearly out in the day what the issues are and what needs to be addressed. And hopefully with episode 48 coming soon, we can start to address those and kind of wrap it up towards the year. And hopefully 2025 will be something that we can look forward to with, Save the Universe, with any other events, anniversary event, hopefully survival mode or a survival mode variant coming back. So, I mean, they have the roadmap in terms of what they need to do. Now they just have to kind of act on it. Every player knows what needs to be addressed in this game in terms of supercharges, weapon balance, power set balance, the server issues, episode content being lackluster, challenging content, engaging feats. This is not new to any other player. Any player can tell you what the game's missing out on. I mean, they'll mention PvP as well, but I really don't think they can, especially with a brand new development team. They're not addressing PvP, but at the same time, people are going to say that. So it's not any question what DC Universe Online needs. Now they just need to kind of keep acting on it and actually begin to act on it and action it, or develop a realistic roadmap in terms of not only just content, but improvements as well that the players and the game desperately needs, as evidenced by their own, corporate returns. So we can kind of carry on this conversation in the comment section. I just want to kind of release this just to kind of give you guys a heads up. And then hopefully we have something more to discuss in the upcoming future, eventually whenever the episode hits public test.